glazing time. All right. I've talked about this many, many times. As somebody that's been a Kendrick fan since 2011, it's felt great. It's felt great ever since. I remember hearing Section 80, Cartoons and Cereal, and then going back and listening to Overly Dedicated and thinking, we might have something. We might have something here. And then Good Kid, Mad City came out. Probably my favorite Kendrick album of all time. But I mean, To Pimp a Butterfly and Good Kid, Mad City are both 10s to me. Perfect albums that I can listen to front to back. I always just kind of wanted to talk about these albums and not really tie it to anything else. Not talk about, not getting too far into like beefs and all that. Obviously, with some songs, it's hard to avoid potential beefs. But I figured we'd start with GNX. It's the most recent that came out. And, there's a lot of people online that are just pretending that people are glazing and they don't have any reason to like GNX. And I want to make it clear and talk about the things that I like about the album. Going song by song. It's not going to be a reaction. We've heard this. We've heard the album many times at this point. But just kind of talking about the songs top to bottom. Whacked Out Murals, Immediately, Sinister, Evil. Everything he talks about is kind of expected at this point with Kendrick. Fuck Everybody. Old Soul, I probably built them pyramids. There's all kinds of lines in this song that there's so many lines in this album that I just randomly think about. But I think it's a great start to the album because it kind of, a lot of people have said, and I hate to use the word toxic, but that's the word people are using. They're saying that Kendrick, he went to therapy with Mr. Morale and then he decided, nah, I'm just going to be more toxic post therapy. And therapy people, they seem to think that's really funny. But I enjoyed Whacked Out Murals because he's just, I enjoy the overall message of, hey, not everyone's going to like you. Just get up and work. Just do your thing. Because that's constantly a thing with Kendrick, is just being yourself and understanding that you're probably like, not only are some people not going to like you, you're probably going to piss some people off by just doing your thing, but you got to do your thing. So anyways, I don't want to spend, 20 minutes on every song. So we'll try to make it a little quick as we go down. Squabble Up. I've been waiting for it. Honestly, when Not Like Us came out, the music video, I thought we were just getting a teaser for a song that would never release because Kendrick does that. That's a thing that he does. I'm still waiting for a variety of songs, some unreleased, some that have popped up in music videos from the TPAB era that we've never gotten. So Squabble Up felt great coming out. Enjoyed just as much as I did when it was just a snippet, but now I have the full song. There's people have called them stem lines, the yeehaw, we outside. Obviously, every time that comes on, I have to say it. But it's, it's just as good as expected. It felt good to finally get it. It was interesting to see the album titles and thinking that Reincarnated was going to be Squabble Up, but we got Reincarnated, and Reincarnated is also a phenomenal song, but we'll get there. Like I said, don't want to spend too much time. On to Luther, which is honestly my least played song from the album, which is crazy because it's definitely the most popular radio-wise. Like, it's definitely the song that's going to get the most plays because, SZA is great, Kendrick's great, the Luther sample is great. It's just a beautiful song, and the way the strings build, and the fact that SZA sounds great. And especially, like I said, I don't want to bring up too much in regards to the beef. It's hard to not tie the beef in with this album. But especially after hearing, SZA Has You Wiped Down, for SZA to be featured on the album twice, like, it's obvious that they're cool with each other. Like, it's just not going to work. Like, this snake shit that's trying to turn people against each other, it's not going to work here. It's not going to work. Man at the Garden, the kind of one mic tribute, I guess you could say. I love this song. There's something kind of rewarding about Kendrick just kind of saying, like, nah, I deserve it all. I deserve it all. And the way he builds up towards the end and gets aggressive, like, those moments are just peak Kendrick to me. And he does this in Meet the Grams. He does this in plenty of other songs. He does it in Auntie Diaries. Although that song kind of builds more with the music rather than his voice. Man at the Garden just slowly builds up, and then it does have that kind of one mic feel to it in the beat. And then, of course, at the very end, as he builds and builds and builds, and then it just kind of immediately stops with the I deserve it all. It's a great song, and it's very rewarding to hear him finally just kind of like embrace this idea of like, I deserve it all. But anyways, Hey Now has been my most listened to song on the album. I love the Dodie 6 verse. I love the synths. I've talked about this. The fact that I've been in the car. I remember I talked about this in another video when we went to go pick up a package. It was heavy, so my wife was driving and I was holding it. I was holding the package, and those synths came on. And I remember I left grip marks on the box because I was like, this song makes me want to. It makes me want to lift. Like, it makes me want to throw shit or hit a heavy bag. Like, it just, there's something about it. But when he gets to the Ben Frank murderer, Mr. I Ain't Heard Ya line, and those synths kick in, and, you know, I'm way too important. The whole, that whole building section, just for it to cut to Dodie 6, and Dodie 6 just with like his very, like, it's like he's not even trying, and it just comes across as so cold. Like, it's just, I love this song. I've genuinely listened to Hey Now more than any other song on the album. I love the beat. It's just so dark and sinister, and the synths are evil. Oh my God, man. And there's just classic lines. I know a lot of people have made fun of Dodie 6, who the fuck I feel like Joker line, which I can forgive that. You know, he didn't go too deep into it. You know, he didn't go all society be like, with the whole situation. But yeah, I love it. Genuinely, I don't want to say it's a definitive favorite, but it's definitely the one I've been listening to the most. Because there are other songs on this album that I know will just kind of hit different during like a long drive or something like that, or driving at like 4 a.m. in the morning with the windows down, especially like Heart Part 6, but we'll get there. Reincarnated is a classic. Like, Kendrick does this where it's like, here's a verse about another person, here's a verse about another person, here's a verse about me. He's done this before in Sing About Me. He kind of did something in Fear. It's not quite the same. Fear was, here's a verse of me young, here's a verse of me middle-aged, and here's a verse of me older. Maybe not middle-aged, but, you know, around, you know, different age groups. But you get the idea. Whenever he does these, like, here's a verse from one perspective, then the next perspective, and then me, or the age differences, it's always phenomenal. Like, this is when his storytelling is the best. And it, like, the Pac delivery that we get on this song, on the Pac beat, is just, it's, I mean, and no AI, no forcing the AI. And even then, you know, he's from the West Coast. Like, he's coming at it from nothing but respect for, you know, a legend. You know, it's not being used in like a diss. It's just like, and I mean, he did this in To Pimp a Butterfly with Mortal Man, that interview with Tupac. I mean, damn, I love Reincarnated. It's a very easy song. If you like Kendrick's storytelling, you're just gonna like Reincarnated. TV Off is the song that everyone knows because the yelling Mustard situation. Everyone knows Mustard did in fact make the beat for TV Off, and it's a great song. There's I hate a bitch, hating on a bitch, and they both hoes. There's lines. Listen, there's lines in every single song on this album that are just so memorable. And, you know, it doesn't even, like, normally you have like a Kendrick album and you have the double, triple, quadruple entendres that people go into. There's just flat out lines in this album, and he's done this before, but there's so many in this album where it's just, this is a bar. It's straight to the point. You don't need any context. You don't need a thesaurus, a dictionary, or any. It's just great. It's just a great line. Lefty Gunplay almost feels unnecessary for the last, you know, crazy, scary, spooky, hilarious section. But you know, there's a lot of West Coast in this album, and that's one thing. You know, with Dodie 6, Lefty Gunplay, Peso, Hitta. I've become a huge fan of Hitta J3, man. And I mean, I've seen him in interviews, but I don't know. I never really listened to a lot of his music, but now I feel stupid. But anyways, Dodger Blue's biggest crime is that it's too short. Many people have said this. The fact that this song barely breaks 2 minutes is insane. And there's tons of people dancing to this song on TikTok. I come across non-stop TikToks about this song specifically. Which surprised me it doesn't have as much plays as certain other songs on the album, with how much I see people dancing to it. But I mean, uh, Wally the Sensei and Roddy Ricch, their little kind of like duo thing that they do just works so well. There's times where it's hard to tell who. Well, I mean, Wally has a deeper voice, I think. Obviously, heard plenty of Roddy Ricch before this. Not a lot of Wally. That's, like I said, a cool thing about this album is hearing more West Coast rappers and singers brought to the forefront. This song is just too short. It kind of feels like you could add another 2 minutes to it. And it feels like there's never really a period of the song where it's just kind of like, it doesn't really feel like it has a chorus or a hook. It's just like good idea after good idea after good idea. But I don't know. It needs to be longer. Peekaboo. AZ Chike. What a verse. What a verse. I like my Mac touching yams. Just, this song is so funny to me because the bing bop boom 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 bop bam line, either people are dying laughing at it or getting very upset because like the idea of Kendrick just throwing something out like that, it pisses people off because you have people that are like, oh, I thought Kendrick was deep and he's saying stuff like this. And then you have people who are like, they're just excited to see him having fun. You know what I mean? But sorry, I knew I had a cough coming, but it's another short song. And I feel like, once again, this is another feature that kind of like really like the way he's applied the features, like obviously it's a Kendrick album, but much like Dodie 6 and, you know, like Wally the Sensei and Roddy Ricch, like the features are such like a core part while it's still feeling like a Kendrick album. Like they're not dominating it, but it works so well. But I'd also heard AZ Chike before this. So it wasn't like a new experience for me. The Heart Part 6, the actual Heart Part 6 as we'll call it. I love the fact that this is all just kind of dedicated to his rise. Well, not even necessarily his rise, but the journey. You know what I mean? Like it's not all about him. Like he talks about Absol and how much of an influence he was. And, you know, Q couldn't rap, but they brought and now Schoolboy Q is one of my favorite rappers. You know, the idea that Q came in and he couldn't rap, but now he's one of my favorites. It's just crazy. And obviously J-Rock. I mean, the whole Black Hippie crew. I've said it many times. I know that Kendrick he went off and he did his own things, and we've gotten great things out of that. But the Black Hippie crew, Absol, J-Rock, Q, like. All of these artists have put out great music. I mean, all of their albums are all over my playlists. You know, Soul put out Soul Burger this year. Blue Lips by Q came out this year. J-Rock, what are we doing, J-Rock? What are we doing? But you know, we've gotten so many great albums from the people that are brought up in this song, Heart Part 6, and it's all just kind of like, it's like a very humble kind of, you know, who would have thought? Who would have thought? You know, Kendrick is looking up to Soul and J-Rock, and like I said, I love Absol and J-Rock, but Kendrick is obviously he's the biggest one of that circle now. And you know, at one point he was looking at Soul thinking like, if only my pen can be as good as his. And there's still debate. Like obviously Absol fans are gonna be like, maybe one day he'll get there. And there's people who are like, I think he did it. But honestly, it doesn't matter because they're all just cool with each other. And the juxtaposition of the Heart Part 6 by Drake and Heart Part 6 by Kendrick, you know, Drake having to defend himself nonstop in his version, and Kendrick just kind of talking about these people that he's known and he's close with, that were there for him and that he supported and they supported. You know, Schoolboy Q talking about how, you know, Kendrick was going to be big. Like, I mean, those are the kinds of people you want in your close circle. Anyways, GNX. So GNX is a wild song because almost immediately the beat is crazy. And I will admit, the beat is my least favorite part of it. It's a short loop and it's kind of, it's wacky. It's wacky. Some people have said that you could make it in FL Studio in like 30 seconds. But the verses, Peso's verse is great. I will say Hitta My favorite verse is 1000% Hit It Dre 3. I love this verse. I want to hear more of him, to be honest with you. And then Young Threat, I remember the first time hearing this, and like, I'm not involved, but I feel like an accessory. Like, hearing the verse, either accessory or I feel threatened. Young Threat sounds like a very intimidating person. The way his delivery and everything, get down with the pliers on my Bob the Builder shit. I don't know. I like his verse. Some people have clowned on his verse. They said it's like, it's offbeat or whatever. I like his verse. I don't like it as much as I like Hit's verse, but it's a cool way to kind of close it out, because everything kind of like dies down and it doesn't end with the tell him Young Threat did it. I mean, he says it, but it doesn't end with like a Kendrick verse or a Kendrick hook. But I do like, I mean, it's obviously the song that's named after the album. I do like that it's really, there's barely any Kendrick. I think that a lot of the problems that people have with the song is that there's barely any Kendrick in it. But I like all the features. Obviously going to be biased towards Hitta, but I mean, yeah, it is interesting that it's the song that's titled after the album, but has the least amount of Kendrick. But I can understand this being people's least favorite from the album. Then we have Gloria, another song featuring SZA, beautiful singing, of course. The whole idea that this bitch is his pen. I mean, it's kind of like Heart Part 6 in a way, where it's kind of like about, his pen being his vice, but his greatest, like his ride or die, like his most important thing, his voice, something that some artists nowadays you can't really say they have, because they have a lot of co-writers, ghost writers, whatever you want to call them. So having this, this kind of like this shout out to his pen game is, I don't know. It's cool, man. It's cool. Like the thing, it gets him in the most trouble. It's made him the most money. It's told a lot of stories. It's helped a lot of people. It's hurt some people. What are you gonna do? And that reminds me, I forgot about Reincarnated, the verse at the end where he's kind of like using different voices for different characters, like the devil and God. But anyways, people are going to be mad I didn't bring that up in Reincarnated, but just there's so much to talk about. I don't want this video to be like an hour long. I just wanted it to be like 20 minutes. But as a whole, I've seen a lot of different ratings. I don't agree. Obviously, I don't agree with the Pitchfork one. It amazes me how many people will bring up, if people that don't like Kendrick will bring up Pitchfork, knowing damn well that nobody ever trusted Pitchfork about shit before this. It's gotten a lot of good scores. Fantano gave it a 9 out of 10, which was kind of unexpected, I guess. But I feel that, my thing when it comes to this album, it's very short. I don't think it's as much of a concept album as a lot of his other albums. So as far as like it being a complete story, but there's so many songs I can just, like I said, I can go to Hey Now and just listen to it. I would say just overall that it's, even without like a really strong concept, it's just a great album. Like it's just a fun, too short album. I'd give it a 9 out of 10 because I could Dodger Blue, I could use that being a little longer. Peekaboo, I could use that a little. Like honestly, Peekaboo with maybe another feature pushing it over 4 minutes, I could use that. You know what I mean? I honestly Squabble Up. I could take that being really. It's crazy when you get to a point where you're like, this album could have been better if only we made most of the songs longer, especially in a day where there's a lot of artists putting out 25 something album songs and only 3 of the songs are really good, and they know that they just want to get the streams, so they're just kind of putting out whatever. But yeah, great album. Always feels good to be a Kendrick fan. Next is going to be Mr. Morale. Got a lot of good things to say about that album. Be prepared though. I mean, that's kind of a long album. And then also be prepared for To Pimp a Butterfly and Good Kid, Mad City to be long videos, because those are my favorite albums by Kendrick, hands down. Especially Good Kid, Mad City. There's so much I can say about that album that I love. Anyways, GNX, great album.